Yep.
Right, hello everyone. I hope you're all well today. It's my pleasure. I'm speaking to Julian today, and we're going to go through some of the main questions that I get asked a lot about tinnitus, and Julian's going to give us his advice, which has always helped me. So it's my pleasure to be here today, Julian.
Likewise, very happy to help.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is we know that one of the main factors or causes of tinnitus can be noise trauma to the ear, damage to the hair cells, etc. So we know this can happen. But there are people such as myself who don't have any noise trauma. We don't really have any damage to it. My hearing's fine, there's nothing wrong with my hearing, and yet I still have tinnitus. Now everything with myself points to stress as being the cause of why I was struck with tinnitus. In your opinion, what do you think are the main causes, or can be the causes, of being struck with tinnitus?
Well, certainly in my practice, most people that I see, I'd say 60 to 70% have good hearing. A lot of them say, I went to have my ears tested and it was perfect, better than average, and yet they have tinnitus. So this points to being in that heightened state of red alert, the fight or flight response where you're listening out for danger, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the main causes of tinnitus, because if you're hyper-vigilant and you're really listening out far too acutely, you end up hearing a buzz of your central nervous system. And there's something completely normal about tinnitus. If you get anybody to listen out in silence, most people can ramp up their internal sensitivity so that they start hearing their own central nervous system. So part of tinnitus is completely normal, but if you're anxious or you're traumatized or you've been through a really difficult situation, you become overwhelmed, your ears start listening up far too acutely, and that for me is one of the most common underlying causes of tinnitus.
Yeah, the reason I think, for me, when I look back on my life history, it was too many years of living in a heightened state of not being very happy with the world. Anger is a big issue for me, stress, anxiety, all of those things. And I just felt like it was my brain basically said to me, I've had enough of this, the way you've been treating me for all these years, and it reflected that in me getting tinnitus. That's how I feel about it. It's my brain basically is telling me, you need to stop and change.
You mentioned anger there, and
Yeah.
anger's a really powerful force. You know, in the fight or flight response, if we have a sense of injustice or boundaries have been breached, then we're left in a really reactive state. Anger floods into our system, and it can really charge up our senses. And I know certainly from my own process, anger has been a huge part of tinnitus, and as I've worked through in therapy to settle, release, process, digest, find some kind of resolution, that's very, very helpful with tinnitus. But anger is definitely an activating state to be in.
And it's not an easy thing to do, but for me, and I've said this in my own videos before, it's almost been like, and Amanda can testify to this because she lives with me, it's almost been like changing almost part of my personality to react to the world in a different way. Whereas I used to get very angry for the red mist would rise very, very quickly, particularly at work. And so now I try and react by not reacting and just try and keep things calm. And that I found has one of the main things that has helped me.
It's hugely helpful.
Get to where I am now. So when I was struck with tinnitus, I went to see my GP. They referred me to the hospital, and I was examined by doctors and ENTs. And having gone through all the usual tests, and this seems to be a common thing with people when I talk about tinnitus, it seems to be people usually have the same story on this. I was told by more than one ENT, there's no cure, you'll have to live with it for the rest of your life, and you just have to live with it pretty much, and there's no cure, and that's the way it was put across to me. Now, I don't believe that this is what should be said to those who have just been struck with tinnitus, because it's a new, for me, I didn't know what it was, what was happening to me. I was in a terrible state, and to have that said to you, it makes you feel hopeless and worse. And I don't think that doctors, although there is no mainstream medical cure that they can just give you like a pill or anything like that, I don't think that doctors really should be telling people this when they're first struck with tinnitus, because we know there are ways and methods that can help us. So my question is, do you think doctors should stop telling people there is no cure in this manner, and rather it would be better for them to say, although there is no medical solution to this, there are ways and methods that will be able to help you, rather than just saying there's no cure, you have to live with it for the rest of your life?
Yeah, definitely. It's very harmful to say there's no cure, because as I experienced it when I was told there was no cure, it just makes people's stress levels go through the roof, and you can feel completely trapped and hopeless and flooded with dread, and that is the perfect conditions for flaring up symptoms even more. And if you get louder symptoms, then you feel trapped. You know, it's a hellish situation to be in. So that's why I put lots of videos out there saying stop saying there's no cure for tinnitus, and that's a hugely popular video, and it does get seen and heard by a lot of people all over the world. And that's what's one of the great things of the internet, is you can get useful messages out there. And I find doctors generally are brilliant because they've got a good understanding of the nervous system. It takes me sometimes 30 seconds to explain tinnitus to a doctor. They get it. Fight or flight response, alarm bells stop ringing, settle the nervous system down, it goes quiet. It's not very difficult to understand, and quite often I found doctors really benefiting from this information, and they go on to help their clients and direct them down a psychological, psychotherapeutic or hands-on therapy route. I think once you understand that calming and settling the nervous system has a huge benefit for tinnitus, it's a no-brainer. You know, that's a very good thing to promote. ENTs are trained to do amazing surgery, and they're the people you go to be referred to an MRI scan, and they're very good at what they do, but they're not therapists, and a lot of them haven't been through tinnitus themselves. So my stance is to educate people. I wrote to my ENT, having been told there was nothing I could do, and I wrote to him saying, listen, you know, this is not true. I've made a complete recovery. This is what helped me. Please stop saying this to people. Perhaps it would be better to direct them down the route of finding good hands-on therapy and psychotherapy just to settle the nervous system. And I had a really positive response. And when clients of mine get better, and by better I mean long periods of time of silence in a quiet room, or very long periods of time when they're not thinking about it, it sounds very quiet if they listen out for it. So it's significantly better. I say, please write to your doctor and please write to your ENT and tell them how you got better, because I think this information needs to be out there. And if you educate and update people, they do pay attention, and they may then start handing out positive information to other people. I think a lot of this is getting helpful, useful information out there so people feel empowered, they know what to do. The last thing you want to do with a stress-related symptom is to push people off a cliff. You want to give them a nice, clear path forward with really sensible advice and practical advice, and people quite often take it, and thankfully they get better, and then they start talking to other people about it, and that's hugely beneficial. I've written to the ENT Association in Britain, and they haven't replied deliberately because I'm just a diddly squat therapist. But the information that's going out online is speaking for itself, and lots of people are putting their own case histories, and I'm going to be setting up a research program where people can take a before and after snapshot of their tinnitus when they're going through therapy, and then we're going to gather up that information. And I think the more we can gather really useful evidence, the better. And medics have their hands tied by really strict medical research protocols, and so somebody like me, if we can gather lots of evidence together, then that can help them understand and accept, and then get more positive messages going out. So, you know, we can all help each other, and everybody getting better, and then talking about it, I think is the way forward.
What I found interesting was, as I see more than one ENT, which I'll get onto in a minute. But one of the ENTs that I saw was absolutely, I was trying to say, I've found that other methods of helping me. I found this guy Julian who says this about tinnitus, and one of the ENTs was very, very dismissive of anything I had to say. But there's another one, a woman at Southend Hospital. She has tinnitus herself, and she's an ENT. And when I speak to her now, and I give her an update, I go and see her, and I give her an update on how I'm feeling, and from where I was like a level 10 to where I am now, to virtually a 1 to virtually 0.
Brilliant.
She is very interested in what I have to say, and she is taken on board what I have, because she has it herself, and she's much more open to, you know, the methods that you advocate and things like that. And she said there is something in this, so it is getting across now, I think, that it's not just this issue with the ears, that there's a lot more to it.
I think the fundamental thing to understand is that our ears developed, we evolved to have ears to sense whether there are predators in the world, you know, friend or foe. You know, our hearing's all about being safe or protecting us from danger. And when you really have a fundamental understanding of tinnitus as being a trigger, or when you rest in safety, when you feel really safe and calm and relaxed in the body, it's normal for your hearing to pipe down and just to rest, quietly pottering along, ignoring the background sounds. Happy ears filter out all the background sound and focus on only what's important, and this is totally dependent on how safe we feel or how threatened we feel. So it's hugely changeable. That's undeniable physiology, and it's been proven, we've known about this really clearly since the 90s with Yastrobov and Jonathan Hazel's work, all understanding how the limbic system, the fight or flight response, has a huge driving force on hearing.
That kind of leads me on to my next question. Like I say, the ENTs that I saw, seen more than one, and they insisted, particularly one, that, and I had multiple hearing tests, they couldn't find anything wrong with my hearing. For a man of my age, it was within perfectly normal range. I also had an MRI scan, they couldn't find anything there, and yet I still have tinnitus. So regardless of the initial trigger or cause, would you say that tinnitus is more of a neurological condition of the mind rather than just being confined to damage of the ears, and in that, that it's the brain and your mind and your nervous system that you really need to concentrate on healing rather than your ears, specifically your ears?
Yes, I mean, I think for most people, if they develop tinnitus, they'll go to their GP and may end up seeing an audiologist or an ENT specialist, and it's great to have your ears checked and to find out that everything's okay. You want to rule out anything untoward being there. It's very unlikely, but it's good to have this checked out, and that can help your mind settle. You know that there's nothing physiological to worry about. If that's the case, then it is very likely to be your state of hypervigilance, and how well you can switch off and settle and soothe yourself. These words sound a bit sort of soft when you're talking about a really powerful symptom like tinnitus. When you first get it, it's horrible. But certainly in my own process, it took me a long time to really relax and settle and switch off. And therapy work can help your mindset settle into a much more positive outlook. All the receptors in your body can really calm down when you feel safe. So hands-on cranial work, for example, which helped me more than anything, really relaxed deeply my nervous system, and that caused the alarm bells to stop ringing. So it is a psychological thing, it's a physiological thing, how the body manages itself, and the body, when the body feels calm, safe and relaxed, the thinking and the anxious catastrophizing can switch off and the senses calm down. So, you know, for some people, cognitive behavioural therapy is good, so you really look at the way you think and you change your thought patterns. Other people like me, body work can really calm the body down, which causes the mind to relax. And, you know, everybody's slightly different, but the mind, the body and the nervous system, they're all completely united and connected. And as we feel safe, calm and relaxed, the head clears, the senses pipe down, and we get into that feeling on top of things state again, and tinnitus really, really pipes down when it happens.
This kind of all leads into the other things I've got written down. Now, when I was first struck with tinnitus, I was at a level 10. I was suicidal pretty much, and I think if you remember when I first came to see you, the first time I came to see you, I was in a bad way. So I'd been to see the doctors and they were no real help. And then I met with you, and the first thing you said to me was, "Don't worry, Adrian, this isn't permanent." And that immediately, from being where I was, made me feel calmer and better about it right away. To hear somebody say, "Don't worry, it will get better, it doesn't have to be permanent." And you advised me on methods that could help me, including cranial sacral therapy, Tai Chi, meditation and yoga. And although at the time that all sounded very zen to me, and I was the last person that I would ever think would take up something like Tai Chi and meditation, I started to have cranial sessions, sacral therapy, with a local therapist, and I had some sessions with yourself as well. And I started to practice Tai Chi, and I found these methods extremely helpful in reducing my tinnitus. And with the Tai Chi, while I'm actually performing my Tai Chi, I should do more of it, to be honest. I found that I wasn't hearing my tinnitus while I was practicing my Tai Chi, and I thought, right, there's something in this, I'll continue with it. So my question, you've touched on it already, but my question is, why do you think that practices such as Tai Chi, yoga, and I've recently started yoga as well,
Good for you.
and cranial sacral therapy, why do you think they have this positive effect in reducing tinnitus? It calms the nervous system yet again.
Well, there are many reasons. One thing that's really, I think, overarching is if you go to a class and you have a teacher and you have a group of people, you're being looked after, you're all doing something very safe, calm and relaxing. The focus is inside your skin bag of awareness. This is a very safe situation. You're not worried about the world out there. Your attention's not going up and out, troubleshooting and being in that activated state. You're just being looked after, and you can finally go in and down into the body and really settle in, feel at home inside the body. A group of people together all doing the same thing is like a shepherd with a flock of sheep. With all respect to Tai Chi, it's very safe, and everybody is inside really focusing on themselves. So we really respond as very sociable animals. We really react to the environment around us. So we can finally switch off, be looked after, and then the movements themselves are incredibly soothing. You know, you're just sort of flowing smoothly. Your mental self is really aware of the physical self. You're not all over the place. The mind and the awareness is with the body in the same space, and that's crucial. You know, the awareness is the key here, and being aware of your posture, how you are inside that movement, is really very beneficial. Mindfulness of the body is the catchword. It's much more the mind and the body are resting in present time experience, and when the nervous system has its own bearings, it knows where it stands literally, that feels safe. It's like a powerful signal to the body that we're inside here. We're not worrying about tigers and lions out there. We're just inside doing a very slow movement which is very manageable, and the attention's resting inside body awareness. And one last thing, yoga and Tai Chi connect you to very positive, healing intentions and energies and qualities that directly make you feel calmer and more at peace. You know, it touches into the spiritual stuff, which is probably the most important stuff of all, but really finding your place and finding meaning in that, and connecting to very calm qualities or energies, that's very comforting. We just directly sense a positive feeling. It's very kind, it's very sort of compassionate, sensitive. The energy or these approaches are very, very beneficial. So if I'm feeling stressed out these days, some crisis happens, I can just get on the floor, do my yoga, or I do my Tai Chi movements, and after half an hour I just feel peaceful.
I found with the Tai Chi, at this point, I've only recently started yoga, but with Tai Chi, the way I find it, the way I look at it for myself at least, is, and it's the same as training at the gym. When I train at the gym, when I used to train at the gym, I did a video on this, when I used to train at the gym before I had tinnitus, I'd get very, very aggressive to get these reps out while training with weights. That's not helpful, that didn't help me. But when I train at the gym now, I train in a different mindset. It's much more a mind over matter into the body, and it's the same kind of mindset I have with the Tai Chi when I'm doing that. And the way I look at it, for me, is I'm really giving my brain a break from itself. I'm not overthinking. That's part of my problem. Is over, and Amanda will tell you what I'm kind of like with this. Overthinking things, over-analysing things. I'm quite a perfectionist as well, and basically just giving my mind a break from itself. And that's why, for me, I feel like with the Tai Chi and going to the gym, I'm kind of just I'm taking my mind into my body rather than having stuff whirring around, stressing it out about stuff, and it's kind of just giving my brain a break from itself. But as I say, going to the gym, I train in a different way now, and it is a mindset thing. But yeah, so it's really just calming my nervous system, calming my mind down, and that I find helpful.
And literally, you can reverse out of the theatre of the head, where we do all the catastrophizing, we have all this drama, our cerebral cortex can really be the biggest problem with tinnitus. You learn to reverse out of mental thinking mode and hyper-focus on the ears into just down inside the body, calming and soothing. When the foundations of the body, when we come downstairs and feel comfortable with very manageable, safe, almost plodding, predictably soothing behaviours, the head upstairs really switches off. If there's one thing I've learnt, is that you can't switch your head off with a head. It's body practice, body awareness that switches the head off. You know, getting the body to feel safe and relaxed, the thinking calms down, the head clears, and the senses soothe and settle back to happy, peacetime.
I've said to Amanda quite a few times it would be lovely to be able to have just an off switch, but that's not the case. So this is the closest thing that I've found to actually, you know, having an off switch for overthinking is to Tai Chi, going to the gym, things like that, into the body. That's the closest I've kind of got to going down this, turn this off for a while.
It really is an off switch. It's a gradual off switch over maybe 20 minutes. You know, and half an hour later you just find that you're generally more off.
And I used to, when I used to leave the gym before I had tinnitus, exhausted but not relaxed. Now when I leave, I feel relaxed. So something's happened, something different is happening with me, and it's all positive. Okay, so also for me, I went to have some counselling done, and also I had some hypnotherapy done. And what this revealed to me was that I had a lot of life issues, and I found with people that I've been in touch with via email and YouTube, etc., this seems to be a common thread as well throughout the tinnitus community. What I found was that I had a lot of life issues, stuff whirring around in my head that I really hadn't been aware of and I hadn't processed. And I had some counselling with a guy called Andrew Parr, who's also a hypnotherapist. And I think you've mentioned this in some of your own videos about this. Sometimes you can release of emotional wishes that you weren't aware of, and it's like a bottle being opened and all this stuff comes out. So I had some session with that, and I found that counselling about these life issues and things like that, and processing things that have been whirring around in there that I hadn't been aware of for years, processing that and coming to you know, some kind of closure on some of these things. I mean, this is kind of personal to me. Everybody has their own issues, of course, but I found that this also, after these sessions, my tinnitus tone went down. And I remember when after we visited Andrew Parr, I said to you, this is most peculiar, the tone has gone down that I was hearing. So my question is, what's your view on such things as counselling and hypnotherapy? Why do you think these methods can help?
No, I think they're brilliant. I think counselling and psychotherapy helps us unpack our issues and find some sense of resolution. Definitely in my practice I've come across a lot of people who've been bullied, or they live with people who get very angry, they live on tenterhooks, and that keeps them very hyper-vigilant. And if you work through these issues in psychotherapy or counselling, you can really settle. You can move into a much deeper place of acceptance, so you're not burning with anger and rage. I had tons of rage, and psychotherapy's really helped me soften and cool down and move into a much more peaceful, accepting state. Hypnotherapy is amazing work. It can go in and you can look into trauma, and you can open it up, and you can kind of make it more manageable, and it's extraordinary how this approach can work with the subconscious mind. All of these things help us feel safe. They help us feel safe in relationship, and our own stuff, if it's burning with rage, for example, which I certainly had, when that all cools down, then we feel safe inside ourselves, and we can trust ourselves, and we can relate to the other person much more, and really track how we are in a moment with other people. I think they're very, very helpful, and having a safe relationship, you know, in psychotherapy or counselling, it's confidential. You can bring whatever you want. All the things that may be lurking behind the screen can can actually surface and be brought into much more conscious awareness, and it's amazing work. It's not a quick fix, but it's a steady shift and allowing of your deeper stuff to come through. So I recommend it highly.
Yeah, I found that it was, like I say, I was living in years of feeling angry with the world pretty much, but I didn't. What were the reasons for this? But going through the counselling and the hypnotherapy, particularly with the hypnotherapy, it wasn't like I was in a trance or anything, I was totally conscious still. But it was just bringing things forward that I'd kept kind of locked away. Again, this all sounds very zen, but it worked. And once these things were brought forward, I could process what I was actually angry about, process it, come to some closure on it, and that helped me. And it really is kind of all mind, body and soul, I have found. Like I say, from where I was, from where I first came to you to where I am now, it's quite emotional really.
That's brilliant.
It's, I mean, back then I thought, you know, God, like a lot of us, how I live. But to where I am now, I'm living pretty much now, I don't hear my tinnitus at all during the day. It's quite incredible really, to where I got to.
Yeah,
so
I'm really glad for you. I mean, it's such a relief, isn't it?
It's, you know, and that's why I just wanted to say thank you for starting me on this path to where I am now.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. It's tremendously satisfying helping people and seeing somebody like you get a handle on it and really take responsibility. I mean, you've really understood it and you've set up a brilliant support network. You've worked on yourself. You've really set up these practices. So your nervous system is bound to feel much better and safer and stronger. And you're much more in touch with your heart and your feelings.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's finding methods that work for you as well, because we are all different. So it's getting a grasp on what's working for you as a person, how you are. It's and Amanda's been a great help to me as well. She does a pseudo-cranial therapy for me most nights. She's become very, very good at it. She knows what points to touch.
Fantastic.
That helped me.
Safe contact, just very caring, loving, safe contact is hugely underrated, and our nervous systems really detect to say contact and then settle and switch off. In this very speedy information age that we live in, it's actually so, the simplicity of safe, calm contact is hugely beneficial.
Yeah,
that's why I like cranial work so much.
When she lays out, because she knows what works for me now. Pretty much every night I get a free cranial session. But this area at the back of the head, for me, anyway, there's something going on with that, because when she does this area, it does bring the level right down, and it always helps. So something's going on with that.
Well, the occiput at the back of the head, there's a vagus nerve that comes out of the central nervous system that switches off the stress response on the upper half of the body, freeing up the upper neck. The cranial base it's just like open sesame. You know, it doesn't matter if it's osteopathy or chiropractic or craniosacral therapy, all body workers will know how important that place is in the person, and getting it to soften and to free up is frankly life-changing. It certainly was for me.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. Okay, I want to talk about a subject that's become a little controversial in the tinnitus community. I want to talk about diet. Now, before I had tinnitus, I had a pretty healthy diet to begin with, but yet I suffered with IBS, so I had terrible stomach and digestive problems, but I had a healthy diet. So I could never figure out why have I got these terrible digestive problems. My diet is healthy, so why am I having these terrible digestive problems? Then I was struck with tinnitus, and after I started to heal my mind for the tinnitus, and calm my nervous system through all the methods that we've spoken about, what I found was, along with that, unexpectedly, my digestive problems went away.
Mm.
They just completely disappeared.
Mm.
And I hadn't changed, at that point, I hadn't really changed my diet at all, but through the methods of, like we say, Tai Chi, etc., and trying to heal my mind and calm my nervous system, my digestive problems and issues, and they were bad, they just completely went, and it was fine. So I think everything is connected with the nervous system, everything, the stomach, the body. I think the stomach is a good indication of stress in itself. If you've got digestive problems, you're probably suffering from stress.
Sure.
And recently, I have tried fasting, from which I have had some positive results. But what I want to ask you is, what is your opinion, and more importantly, your advice on diet and fasting?
Yeah,
fasting.
it's a really important area. Just to say, with diet, it's very helpful to have a healthy diet, and sugar and salt often are big no-nos with tinnitus, so just don't have too much. I don't have tinnitus these days, but if I have lots of crisps and eat very salty food at a party, the next day I often get a bit of tinnitus again. Salt definitely plays a big factor. The best vitamin pill is being calm and relaxed. When we're stressed, our nervous system shuts down, and there's a very obvious example of this, is if you have a big shock, or if somebody pulls out a gun on someone, or you suddenly come across a lion, literally the body ejects food from both ends of the system, because it's going into major fight or flight mode. People can throw up or go to the loo. This is the body basically saying, no digestion now, get rid of that, we need to focus on survival. And that's much more important. So the nervous system deregulates digestion because you've got to survive. And so that's why we have these extreme reactions in a big shocking situation. So the more you relax and feel calm, safe and comfortable, the more your digestion starts gurgling and happily digesting the food and absorbing the nutrients. So being calm and relaxed makes your body much better at digesting and getting the nutrients from the body. So that's why I say the best digestive pill or health pill is relaxation. So when you started settling and processing, your gut's just relaxed, and then they can work much better. Or in a cranial session, hands-on work, often with the sacrum, you start hearing gurgles. This is because the person starts relaxing and the body's going, oh, danger's over. Phew, right, now back to yummy in my tummy and digesting. That's a really good sign of relaxation. Fasting is a challenging but very beneficial thing for a lot of people's health, and if you're in a fit state to fast, so you need to be of reasonably robust health and mind, and not diabetic, or there's certain conditions where it's generally not advised to fast. So if you're interested in fasting, first things first, talk to your doctor about it, find out whether you're in the right space and it's good for you. If you are able to fast, fasting can really powerfully change your health. It's something I've done a lot over the last few years. And if you watch the two documentaries I really recommend, The Science of Fasting on YouTube and Eat Less, Live Longer, the Dr. Michael Mosley Horizon documentary, Eat, Live Longer on Horizon. They're brilliant documentaries with jaw-dropping health benefits. It's quite shocking how beneficial fasting is. If you go into prolonged fasts, like you can build up to 3 or 4 days of water, actually your immune system radically improves and your senses sharpen and your body's getting you ready as hunter-gatherers to go out and get food. Your body's saying, hey, we need food. That's top priority now, so you need to see, smell, hear as well as possible and get ready to go hunting or whatever it is you need to do to get food. We're designed to spend long periods of time hungry. It's normal to be hungry and not to have food for days or weeks. We didn't grow up and we didn't evolve with fridges stuffed full of yogurt and cheese. You know, we were out in the wild, sometimes times of plenty, sometimes not much food for days or weeks, and our bodies are used to this. So if we can tip ourselves back into hunter-gatherer mode, actually your senses sharpen. In this practice here, when I fasted for 5 days, I actually started hearing things I'd never heard before. I could hear the trains on the other side of the building. My hearing was radically better. But fasting is challenging, and I'm in a good space. I'm together, grounded, my life's going well, pretty good health, and I struggle with fasting. You know, I fell off the wagon at Christmas, and I'd struggled to get back into a regular fasting pattern. You know, the pull of food's a strong one, and the addictive pull of sugar's a really powerful force. So actually it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you can get into fasting, and I would advise gradually, just bit by bit, easing in gently, just getting your body used to gentle fast, so maybe just 1 meal a day, twice a week, building up to maybe a day of water twice a week, just gently developing that muscle. I think you can really benefit enormously from fasting, and I've heard many clients talk about tinnitus coming down after longer fasts. But you don't want to stress yourself. You must take, all of this is about you feeling really safe, calm and relaxed. And if you're in that hideous space with tinnitus where you're freaking out and feel trapped and you're a nervous wreck, frankly, like I was, fasting would be the last thing. In that state, I don't think I could have managed it. And I do think we need to just be very gentle. You know, we need to use our common sense. If we're feeling really frayed and raw and just at the end of our tether, small healthy snacks actually suits the body better. When you're in a good robust place, fasting may be very helpful, but we've got to be careful with tinnitus, because if people are desperate for a cure, then they'll grasp at anything. So if you say fast, and people fast and then get into a real state with it, I don't think that's helpful. We have to have our sense of common sense, what's going to work for me, what's going to suit me and my lifestyle. Some people will take to fasting like duck to water, other people will find it really challenging. And mustn't be too obedient, as in if somebody says do this, my advice is, well, think about it first, you know, don't do it, sit back, digest it, consider it, maybe dip your toe in, if it feels right for you then ease into it and find what works for you. And the proof in the pudding is always your own ears. So you've got this healthometer in your system. If you do something and it flares up, that's your body's saying, maybe not for you. Or if you do something else, or if you understand something or feel much calmer and clearer, and the sound comes down, that's your body saying, this feels safe, this feels trustworthy, this feels like a good way forward. Okay. You know, it's so important not to jump if someone says jump. first consider, try things out, gently ease into things. I find the best change happens gradually, and your body can kind of catch up. You know, don't suddenly give up everything and turn everything upside down, because you can get really lost in it.
Speaking for myself, because when I speak about myself, that's something I can say in absolute truth, because it's me I'm talking about. This is what I always try and put across on my own channel. I can only say what's helped me, absolutely, may help others. But what I found was, if I tried to, when I was first struck with it and I was in a bad place, if I'd tried fasting at that point, I don't think that would have been a good idea for me at all. But what I have found is, as I have calmed my nervous system and got to this, what I call a level 1 with my tinnitus, I continue to improve my diet and going to the gym as a byproduct of that. So I do think there is something in diet, because as I did continue to improve my diet, it does seem to have had a positive effect. So there, my opinion is, there is something in the diet. It does affect your tinnitus. There are foods that are beneficial as well as detrimental, and I've cut out mostly anything with caffeine in it, coffee, things like that. For me, it wasn't that difficult, because I already had a pretty healthy diet, as I say, to begin with. So for me, it's not been that difficult to improve it further. With the fasting, I hit a program. Everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. I hit a program, and even myself, being in a physically fit and in a good place with my own tinnitus, I found that quite severe to begin with, to hit that hard. So my advice that I give to people that have contacted me is, yes, I think there is benefit in fasting. I do think there is something in it. But I would find how it works for you first, and as you say, maybe ease into it rather than really hit it really, you know, hard 3 or 4 days of straight fasting. Find how it works for you best in your own way. But I think there is something in this.
There's a really nice sort of middle ground here. Is that a lot of people these days are talking about having windows every day of not eating, so you tend to eat within an 8-hour window, so late breakfast, early supper, and you know, for the rest of the day there may be 16 hours where you're not eating. That gives your body plenty of time to rest and sort of recharge